All right, fantastic. Hello, everybody. I am Steffer, and I am with CViConnect. I am here to talk to you guys a little bit about, the title I gave it was Unlocking Visual Potential for the Experience and the Power of CViConnect. Just the required stuff that I want to put into ATIA. I am an employee of Life Science Technologies. If this squeals or anything, let me know and I can adjust it. Okay, I want to get into the nuts and bolts of why you guys are here. First and foremost, we're here today because of our participation with an OSEP research grant with Western Michigan University. While the image says that we are working currently with 5 states, we're actually up to 7 now. We added Hawaii most recently to our cohort. Went out and did some training with them. And basically what we're working on is training teachers how to use the technology as well as how to work with kids with CVI and better understand the data that they're getting and how they can support their students, and then getting better results for students at the end of the day. Actually, Dawn Anderson has a presentation today at 12:15 that will go into more detail on that research project if you're interested. So getting into CViConnect. So we have two different main components for our system. We have our web-based dashboard, which is where your teachers are going to review the data and things that they're getting from their students. So each student has their own notebook where you're allowed to use as many teachers, as many team members for each student as you'd like. So because our system is completely HIPAA compliant, every teacher is only seeing the list of kids that they are working with. They do not have access to anyone else within the system. So everyone's kind of like separate and depending on the caseload they work with. Very similar to like your online IEP systems would be. And there's no limit to the number of professionals that you can add to the system for each child that you're working with. The next thing on the student notebook that I want to bring your attention to is the functional vision evaluation. So in the system, we actually have a built-in access to the CVI range. So you have both rating 1 and rating 2 with Dr. Roman's scoring criteria built in. But we also know, especially recently, that Perkins has their new protocol that's out. There's other things that you might be using. There's other forms and things that you could put that basic FVE stuff in, or even an O&M eval, any of that stuff if you'd like to have it all in one place, but it's not required. It's just a secure place that you can store that data if you would like to. The next more important area is where you can assign activities. So for each student that you're working with, you're able to go in and customize which activity you think is most appropriate for them. Obviously, anyone who works with a kid with CVI knows that when you've met one kid with CVI, you've met one kid with CVI. They're all very different in how they approach things. So we have a library of activities that you can choose from, and then you can also customize and make your own, which we'll talk about again a little bit more. But on the web page here is where you'll actually go and assign those. So this is just a quick shot here to talk about how you'll analyze which activities you want to use. It's going to scroll through on the right what our activity library kind of looks like right now. With us this year, we have Carly, who is our new activity designer on the team. And so if you have questions about how to create your own content, things like that, she'd be your person to ask and can help answer any of your questions about doing that. She's actually in the back of the room here, but she'll also be at the booth with us if you have any questions. The next thing that I want to point out on the student notebook is where you're going to review your session data, because everybody wants to know, okay, if it's doing all this great stuff, where is that at? So on that session data page, you're going to get a detailed summary with the number of looks, the runtime of the session, the name, the date, the average looking time, all that kind of stuff. You'll also get a timeline that'll show you throughout the session when the child was looking, when they were looking away. And then you're also going to get a heat map, a touch map, the iPad screen recording, as well as the front camera recording. So that's where all the data is housed per kid. Then on the iPad application, you're going to have, this is where you're actually going to run your activities per each kid. So on the right is a screenshot of the CViConnect Pro iPad application. And this is just an example of one student's activities that one fake student that we made with their activities loaded. Before you run a session, we don't require your kids to calibrate in order for us to gather their look detection. Our machine is gathering 64 different data points on the child's face in order to determine how far away they are. as well as the pitch, roll, and yaw of both the child's face and of the iPad. So as both items are moving in space, we're actually able to measure how far away they are from each other and determine where they're looking at the screen. So on the right-hand side, you can see 2 screenshots that I took of myself when I was doing a preview eye detection. The top left shows that the camera is looking at the top of my head, and so it doesn't have enough data in order to determine where I'm looking. So we would need to adjust the iPad in order then to be able to look at the bottom right shows. And that's actually a better indication of where the face is actually detected and can gather that data. So even when our kids have eccentric viewing, which a lot of them do, we're still able to gather the data of where they're looking and determine that information for them. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is our room saliency map. I don't think enough people are aware of this or utilize it. We don't highlight it at the booth very often because I think we just have so much data that we're capturing that sometimes we forget about it. But this is a really cool thing that you can use as well before you start your session to analyze the table in front of you. So this was a desk space on the top left-hand side. You can see I've got my computer open, I've got a desk, I've got folders and books and so many different things that are highlighted in white because there's so many different things on that desk. And then the second picture on the right only has one thing that's highlighted. And actually, I used it on the desk spaces in the hotel. And because it's like a glass top and there's a glare off of it, it even picks that up too as a potential obstacle for complexity. And so it's really cool to be able to see things and how that could potentially be an impact for our students with CVI, and making sure we can kind of preview their desk space or what's in front of them in the room before we run the session to see what's going on behind the iPad. The next thing I want to show you guys is how you can actually create your own activities. So this is getting into that activity designer like I was talking about earlier. It's really simple to get, once you get used to it, to go in there and you're just going to click the plus icon to add a new activity, add new elements. You can add pictures from your photos library, and add different animations as well. So it's very customizable, very similar to adding like PowerPoints and things like that, but you do have to do all of the designing on the iPad. Here's a quick video of the activity designer. So you can see it'll pop up at first with a little indicator to let you know that it's a new activity. You'll click add, and then you get these options with a video, different shapes, text, or different special effects, and even more. And then you can come in here, click from your photos library, select a photo that you want to use, and then it'll automatically import into your activity for use. For timing, I'm not going to play the whole video just because I've got a lot that I want to show you guys and only about 10 more minutes left. So, once you've added things into your activities, you have options, we call them events in the system, that work like if-then statements. I figure like if you think about it like if-then statements as a teacher, it kind of makes it make more sense a little bit. So we have these different events where if these different things happen, so if a child touches it, if the item lands on a designated target, if they've missed the designated target, if they've caught the correct item, all those different things happen, then you could change the appearance, you could make it move, you can make it say something, you can change the color, you can change the background, you can even switch to a completely different activity. So if they touch the blue circle, it goes over to this activity that has blue things on it. If they touch the red circle, it goes to an activity that has red things on it. You can make it really as customizable as you want. You can hide things, so like when they touch this button, something shows up and it appears. And so there's just a lot of customization for how you can make that work. But it really is the easiest to think about it as like if-then statements. So here's a quick video of an activity where if they touch the letter Y on the bottom, it pops up and moves into the letter Y at the top. And all of these slides will be uploaded to, I was adding some more alt text before I uploaded it, so I apologize since I've got so many images. I wanted to make sure that those were clear before I upload it, but I will have them uploaded for you. And then there's some images here that'll show you exactly what to do. So you're going to touch the item that you want to edit, indicate when touched, and then the picture on the right shows you what you'll do for the events page. And you'll pull up the block that says you want it to move and how you want it to move, where you want it to go, and all of that. in order to make it go just the way you want. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is what happens when you're in a district where you don't have good Wi-Fi connection, or maybe you're a guest in the district and they won't allow you to have Wi-Fi access, or I had one school district that I was working in like this back closet area, so even though I had Wi-Fi connection, it didn't connect to my devices very well. It just always seems like school Wi-Fi is not always the most reliable, right? Or maybe you're at a home visit and you're like, I can't get on their Wi-Fi there, or I've got my own hotspot on my phone and it's not connecting. It happens, right? So we created this idea for this no Wi-Fi mode. And so what you're able to do now is select an activity, and you can actually store it on the device, kind of like you would with like Netflix or other streaming services where you're storing the movie on your device temporarily. So when you go on your plane ride, you can watch it even though you don't have Wi-Fi, right? So similarly with that, you're going to download your activity, so it'll still run, it'll store on your device temporarily. Then you'll go into your settings wheel in the top right-hand corner, and you're going to turn on no Wi-Fi mode. So before you go to the student's school, you'll pre-download those activities while you have Wi-Fi. Then when you show up to the school, you'll turn on that no Wi-Fi mode. Only the activities you've stored will show up. Then you can run the activities from there. You'll complete it just like you normally would. When you return back to a secure Wi-Fi network, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see this section that says View Queue, and it's going to talk to you about, I feel like I'm getting feedback. When you get the View Queue, you're going to get the list of activities that are still needing to be sent up to the server. And so if you have one in particular, like I want this one to send now, you can select which ones you want them to go up first. So you can say like, this session, I really want to see that data, or you can just say, send them all, I'll look at them all up once they're all up there, right? So you can kind of rotate through that way. Nothing, I just keep getting feedback. Okay, I just don't want to make it squeal on you guys. Okay, thank you. Okay, so then the other thing with the View Queue is that if you're in a Wi-Fi network that is running slower, it's really nice because if you go onto the server and you're not seeing something there, you can go back to the device and see that it's stored there securely and temporarily while it's being sent up to the system. So sometimes you just might have a low Wi-Fi network, and so you can actually see what's going on in the queue. Where is your data at for your students as it's continually being sent up? Does that make sense? Okay. This has helped us a lot with those low Wi-Fi networks as well as for those bigger files. So if you run, a 20, 30-minute session with a kid, even a 10, 12, 15-minute session with a kid, some of those files can be quite large. Those video files that we're sending up, those recordings of the child's face and of the iPad itself, can take a long time for them to be sent up. So it's just kind of like rest assured they're still there. They haven't been lost. They're just in process and that transit mode of kind of being sent up. Here's a quick video of a session being run with a child. So in this activity, she's very familiar with these. She's matching the word can. It's kind of glitchy, but she's going to drag the bottom word can into the puzzle piece, and then she'll move on and do some more. So you'll just see like she's just holding the iPad in her lap. She's just dragging the words around. This is just an example of one type of an activity that we have. We have recently added a lot of handwriting we have all of the letters in the alphabet in a large size and in a small size. So you guys can work on fine motor with like actually writing in and drawing the letters and things like that too. Carly's added a lot of activities lately. I don't think I could go through and name all the different things she's done. But at the end of the day, the entire CViConnect system is capturing all this stuff on the left-hand side. So we're giving you the session title, the date and time, the length of the session, the look-away detection, the length of each look individually, and highlighting the longest look, the eye tracking to tell you where they're looking when they are looking at the iPad screen, the decibel levels to tell you how loud the ambient room noise is. So if we were to record a session here at ATIA, we would have a lot of high-level volumes versus when we're in a contained room. The touch detection to show you if they are able to reach out and touch the screen will show you that, and that'll be displayed in a heat map for you. You get a screen recording of the actual iPad screen as well as a forward-facing camera of what the child looks like, which has been really helpful to lay those two things side by side and actually show teams, like when this was displayed on the screen, this is what the child looked like when they were viewing. And so you can kind of really help the team better analyze, even when the iPad's not there, what to look for in student behaviors for how they know they're looking. After each session is completed, the moderator can also put in their own notes for the student. So that's where we recommend putting things like the position the child was in, their own health, maybe they're also fighting off a cold at the time, any other behaviors you're seeing, any other environmental information or additional sensory inputs that you think might be relevant to your student and their data. And then that will be linked directly to all the session data we collect. So when you go back in, you can see, I had a student who played possum with me whenever I would come to his home visits. So if he heard my voice, all of a sudden he was like, oh, look, I'm really tired, and like would go play possum on me. And so we started taking notes as to like if he was doing the session with me or was doing with mom, and we noticed a huge difference between when he did sessions with mom, how much more alert and responsive he was than when he did sessions with me. And so I eventually had to come in and be mute to the sessions for a little while. So you just never know. And then the last thing I want to show you guys is a quick little student sample. I have a session later at 4:30 where I'll go into more depth on each of these things and some more student samples for you. But this was a kiddo that was in his wheelchair, and the wheelchair was actually tilted back quite a bit. And so the team was told to put the iPad at eye level, but when you actually analyzed it with his wheelchair tilted back, the iPad was up quite high. And so on the heat map on the right, the green illustrates where he was looking. And you can see he was only able to see the bottom portion of the screen. So we were like, okay, let's lower the iPad down. We'll keep it at central, but we'll lower it down a little bit for him. So when we did that, we see some more green throughout different portions of the iPad, but it's still not a lot. But one of the team members also noted that he dropped his head to his left shoulder and appeared to be looking nasally across and using his right eye peripherally to view the iPad screen. So we're like, all right, well, let's try moving it into his right field for him and see what happens. And it was amazing to see the difference, because now he picked his head back up to a neutral position on his own, and he was still viewing and had much longer attention. Now, the density from this could be because it was the third time that we ran it, but there's no denying that he's accessing much more portions of the screen and looking for a lot longer now that we've got it in the right spot. So now the team knows not just where to put the iPad for the iPad, but any other visual potential information they're giving him needs to be presented on that side instead of at central where they were previously presenting it. Did you have a question? This student is in phase 1. Oh, sorry, the question was what phase is the student in? The student was in phase 1, which actually, all of our activities are labeled with a Roman numeral at the beginning of them. So if you are someone who uses the CVI range or are familiar with that, you'll see a Roman numeral 1, 2, or 3 at the beginning of them. Sometimes you'll see a 2/3 because it can be used for kids who are like at the end of 2, beginning of 3 kind of thing. But just like a helpful guide for where we think the activity might be best fit. But at the end of the day, you guys know your kids best, and so you have to kind of go through and pick what you think would be most appropriate. Although our team is definitely available to help you with analyzing the data or helping you better understand things, meeting with you to help create activities that are more meaningful for you, or just training you to help get started, anything like that. We're here, and that's part of your subscription for your students. And again, it's a per seat subscription, and it's not an automatic renewal. So it's something that's very flexible for your districts. We are completely HIPAA compliant, and there are options in the system to take different identifiable information out to make your district comply with FERPA and everything like that too. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility in there to make sure it meets your district needs. Please feel free to stop by our booth and chat with us. Carly and Aaron are not fighting off colds, and they can probably be heard a little bit better. But they would be happy to help answer any questions you guys have. And like I said, Dawn is presenting at 2:15 on the data we've been collecting, and then I'll also be presenting at 4:30 and a little bit more in-depth version of this and getting into some actual student data as well. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.